As we continue to celebrate the 70th anniversary of our station, it seems only fitting to bring in a longtime broadcaster who was in fact here when it was still CKVR. Please join me in offering a warm welcome to Kevin Frankish. So fantastic to have you on the program.
Yes, Sarah, let's bring in a broadcaster who's almost 70 himself. So I find that hard to believe. I'm 9 years shy of 70.
That we refer to that as seasoned, Kevin. And that all makes sense because you started at the station back in 1983. What do you remember the most from that time?
I was just a kid. It was my first full-time job, first time away from home. I had worked for a few years in the industry, but only part-time while I was finishing school. And so this was my first job, my first time on a real TV station as well. And it was a time in the early 80s when TV news, especially local news, was getting into showbiz to become very much more showbizy and glitzy and more entertainment. But that meant having a budget. And we didn't have a big budget at all at the old VR. So we had to make do, but it was fun. You know, it was the golden age, I think, of television. Not to take anything away from the era you're in, Sarah, but it was a time when we tried things. And if they didn't work, we tried something else. We didn't really listen, or we didn't have any consultants or things like that. We just did things that we thought would work. So I think fun was the best way to describe it. It was a family.
Absolutely, and I'd like to think that that feeling certainly carries on, although I will say I do not miss splicing film. You can't tell me that you weren't happy that technology moved forward.
I luckily came in just as film had just died, thank goodness. So we were the first, actually, CKVR, the CTV News, was the first to use videotape in Canada. One of the first, not the first, but one of the first. And one of the main reasons was because using film, we were outside of Barrie at that time. We weren't on city water. So sometimes some of all those chemicals would end up in our septic system. And so we were sort of told, switch to videotape or clean it up.
We found an old report, Kevin, from 1985, and you were covering the tornado. Being, such a young journalist, as you were just mentioning, what was that like for you?
It was surreal. There were 12 tornadoes that day, 1985, May 31st, 1985. And the tornadoes had started well west of us. And so they had managed to cut off our power supply. So we had a blackout. We didn't know what was going on. It seemed kind of intense outside. We were outside playing catch with a ball because we couldn't do anything. Editing, we had no backup generator. And then it started getting dark. Sky turned green. It's all the things you hear about. And we knew that there's something had happened, but I didn't know what. So I jumped in the car with cameraman Steve Miller, and we went down the hill on Essa Road. And what met us when we got to the bottom of the hill was, again, like I say, surreal. The Barrie Raceway was there at that time, the horse track right at the bottom of the hill. And there were horses running around. There were people trapped in cars, trucks upside down, trapped in debris. And I didn't know what to do first. I just started interviewing people, just left and right, started interviewing people.
Let's switch gears back to what you mentioned, the fun, the lighter side of broadcasting. You have an incredibly illustrious career, went on to span 27 years with Breakfast Television. You left us in 1991. Is there something that you perhaps learned during your time in Barrie that stuck with you?
You know what? When I moved on to Breakfast Television after that, I really credit CKVR, and I keep calling it CKVR. I hope the old timers all remember those call letters. But I learned how important local was. And when I say local, you can be local in Toronto as well, because someone who lives, say, at Bloor and Islington, they're still human beings who are interested in their local news from their neighborhood, and they want to be able to talk one-on-one with the person who is bringing them the news. So I learned how to interact with an audience, and that audience really became family. And I think that's a really important thing. And I'd really suggest that to any new broadcasters is always remember the people you are talking to. You may think they're sophisticated, big city. No, they're all individuals who have their own individual lives, their own individual problems. And so, talk to them and let them know what's happening and be honest above all.
That is something I'm going to take away from this interview. We'll leave it there for today, Kevin. But thank you so much for paving the way for the rest of us. You truly are an icon.
Oh, thank you very much for saying that. I appreciate it, Sarah.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time.